Get ready, because today I'm going to give you something to react to. By the way, my name is McNulty. I'm the author of The Half Murders, and welcome to my writing channel. Quite a few subscribers requested this video, and it's an important topic because stories are built on a pattern of action and reaction. When anything meaningful happens in a story, we want to see how characters will react. Sometimes they react in ways we expect, other times their reactions surprise us and draw us deeper into the narrative. Either way is fine, but for a story to work, character reactions must be convincing. If they're not, then the story becomes laughable and you risk alienating your audience. But you don't need to worry about that because today we're going to focus on writing strong, believable reactions. We'll discuss how reactions work, how to create convincing ones, and I'll give you some bonus tips at the end of the video. Okay, right up front, let's talk about the purpose of reactions. First of all, a reaction is an emotional response to something that happens. Characters might react to new information, to the spoken word, to an event that takes place, to an action that's performed, or to an opportunity that arises. There are plenty of possibilities. Now remember that emotion is key here. The purpose of a reaction is to help us emotionally connect with the characters. Seeing how a character responds is what draws us into the story. It can make us curious about them, it can make us understand them, it can make us side with or against them. But at the minimum, the emotional reaction must be believable within the context of the story. Let me give you an example of a bad reaction from the movie Barbarians. This is a horror movie, and the opening scenes actually do a decent job promising mystery and darkness. Then there's a setup with this couple moving into a new house, and one day the main character, who we'll call Ramsey for obvious reasons, finds a fox caught in a trap. He tries to help the fox, but the animal snaps at him and scares him off. Now, this particular reaction is fine, but in one of the following scenes, Ramsey returns home and finds a wounded fox lying on his kitchen floor. It's a chilling moment, and when his girlfriend arrives, she urges him to do something. Here's how he reacts.
Shoot! 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 Get it! Go!
Now, this reaction killed my interest in the movie. Why? Because it wasn't appropriate or believable. They took a genuinely creepy moment and they turned it into a goofy one. I get that the creators wanted to portray Ramsey as this cowardly person, but there are better ways of doing it. He could have simply stayed frozen in place, or called the cops, or rushed his girlfriend out of the room. Instead, the actual reaction that we get here severed the emotional connection that I had to the character, and it clashed hard with the story's tone. And that brings us to the topic of how to write a believable reaction. I've got 4 steps for this. The first one is to establish the story's tone. This is critical. Setting the tone clues the audience in on how characters will respond to events. Think about the tone of The Dark Knight versus Guardians of the Galaxy. Or think about the tone of Schindler's List versus Seinfeld. If a story is serious in tone, its reactions will usually be more sincere and grounded, whereas a comedic tone usually allows for a wider range of lighthearted reactions.
How could you?
How could I what?
You were making out during Schindler's List?
No!
Don't lie, Jerry.
Step number 2 is to ground us in the story world. World building plays a key role in how characters react. A story world will dictate certain rules and expectations that shape how characters respond. For instance, if someone walks into a police station covered in blood and carrying a weapon, and this is in contemporary society, it's going to draw plenty of alarmed reactions. On the other hand, if John Wick walks into the Continental Hotel covered in blood and carrying a weapon, none of the assassins there are going to even flinch. Third step is to ground us in character. Early on, it's important to establish who your characters are. Have them act and react with consistency. That way, when something stressful or outlandish happens, we can anticipate their reaction and enjoy how they surprise us. One particular thing worth establishing is a character's values. For example, in the TV series Fallout, the main character Lucy grows up in the sheltered world of an underground vault. She is raised to be idealistic, trusting, and warm, and later when she enters the hostile world of the wasteland, her naive idealism creates some fun and surprising reactions.
Excuse me. Hi. May I approach?
I ain't got weapons.
Oh,
Or money.
it's okay. I just want to ask you for directions. You can't treat people like this.
Yeah, why's that?
Because of the golden rule. How about on the count of 3 we all raise up our arms?
We already said we don't have any weapons.
And neither do we!
Oh, either way, could we Could we just give it a try? Please?
And then step number 4 is to decide how the reaction impacts the story. Always be aware of what certain reactions must accomplish. Sometimes you want to keep a reaction simple in order to continue a conversation between characters. Other times a reaction might shift the direction of a scene, or show character growth, or set up a difficult dilemma that a character must wrestle with. There are many possibilities, but remember that reactions play a key role in shaping your story. Now, before we wrap up this video, I've got 5 tips for creating strong, effective reactions. The first one is to give your characters different reaction styles. And if everyone reacts the same way, the story becomes bland and predictable. Instead, what you want to do, you want to get to know your characters and create variation in the style in which they react to things. For example, in Seinfeld, Jerry usually reacts logically to situations. Meanwhile, Elaine is often edgy and outspoken, George usually reacts anxiously, and Kramer tends to react with wild unpredictability. Tip number 2, avoid unnecessary dialogue. Sometimes all a reaction needs to be is a facial expression or some other non-verbal response. On the other hand, if you overdo it and spell out the reaction with unneeded dialogue, that can often do more harm than good. Tip number 3, sometimes the obvious reaction is the correct one. When writing character reactions, there might be this temptation to shock the audience, but there's no shame in playing things straight, especially when you have a sincere character reacting to a sincere situation. For example, when Harry Potter learns he's a wizard, he responds with childlike disbelief and curiosity, and that endears us to his character. Later on, when he goes wand shopping, he tests out 2 different wands and flinches when they cause damage to the shop. His reactions are human and universal, and they help connect the audience to this mysterious new world. Tip number 4, avoid cliched reactions. I know I just said that obvious reactions are fine, but sometimes you want to steer clear of overdone reactions and responses. For instance, when somebody asks a tough guy character if he's afraid to die, the character will often say no in order to sound like a badass. But check out what John Wick says when he's hit with a similar question.
Do you fear damnation, John?
Yes.
Not only does John's response separate him from the cliche, but it actually makes him sound wise, and it darkens the story's atmosphere. Finally, tip number 5 is that shocking reactions can establish unique and memorable characters. As long as you establish your tone and story world first, you can use a shocking reaction to blow up your audience's expectations and introduce someone unusual. For example, early on in the movie Friday Night Lights, there's a scene where a high school running back gets the football and fumbles during summer practice. His father is watching from the stands, and after the fumble, the father storms onto the field and criticizes his son for not holding on to the ball. When the kid tries to walk away from his father, this happens.
Tell me why you can't do it. Just tell me. That's all I want to know.
I'll try better next time. Come on.
Hey, don't you walk away from me. Don't you walk away from me when I'm talking to you. You hear me? Tell me why you can't hold on to the ball.
Enough.
Come on.
This scene establishes how obsessed the man is with family pride and football, and it marks him as a character to be on the lookout for as the story continues. So I hope this helps. Question of the day, what is your favorite character reaction from a story? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, please pick up a copy of any one of my books and be sure to leave reviews on Amazon. If you like horror stories, you'll love The Half Murders. It's about a woman and her daughter who go into a haunted house and they get chopped in half, and for them, the nightmare is only beginning. Also, be sure to check out my other videos, like, share, and subscribe. And as always, remember to keep on writing.